right, we are being recorded by
Nice.
Craig, so that's good.
So,
David
can you
Kim,
see me?
welcome to the show. Thank you
Yeah,
for
we
coming.
can hear you.
We can hear you. We
Can
can't
see
see
me?
you.
Yeah.
Well,
I
what
just
you have
threw
to
on
say
a
is
hat
most important.
because I was like, my hair's messy. I totally
Oh,
didn't
that's
realize.
a
No, I didn't
fantastic
Is
realize.
that a
sweater.
fedora?
I didn't realize this was 12 Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much. My apologies.
I had the same problem when I started, so you're not alone. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
It's
Good.
No, we're sorry. You know, we
differences.
really fly by the seat of our collective pants here. So thank you for coming on. It's really nice
Yeah.
having you.
No,
I'm in
thank
New
you so
York.
much.
The
Okay, got it.
yeah, I mean the idea is like to get a lot of disparate political views together. People
Mhm.
from physically distant places,
Mhm.
mentally, emotionally different places, historically different places, and
But
come
we all come
together
together.
Yeah.
through UBI, which is sort of the perfect policy for this moment in history, I think.
Yeah.
And I think you're a supporter, certainly. So we're very glad to have you. We're all UBI advocates, eager to learn from you, to know you better, and to have a discussion about UBI electoral politics and poverty with you.
Yeah.
So thank you so much
Yeah.
for coming on the show. It's going to be an
Thank
informal
you.
discussion. I'm not sure if anyone else might have their camera on, but thank you for appearing on camera and everything. We know you thought this was later, so thanks for getting dressed for us.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
I just
If you weren't, I don't know.
threw on whatever I saw that was closest to me, so here you have it.
No, it looks great. I love it.
Perfect.
I absolutely love it.
Like,
My name is
I
Shale.
care.
I'm the producer
I
and
care.
organizer of the show. That's Ariel. Oh, there, and
Awesome.
yeah, Ariel, if you guys can introduce yourself.
Ariel, we met before in person. Love him.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, very, very nice, charismatic, brilliant, intelligent guy. Cool. And then who am I talking to over here? Or you don't know what who is here.
oh,
Ariel, go, yeah.
I
Upper left. Upper left, Ariel.
shift order.
Blue shirt, the other blue shirt.
yes.
This
That's-
What was your name?
Faye.
Faye. Okay, got it. Hey, Faye. Cool.
Oh,
Awesome.
Faye.
Yay.
You're working with Hannah.
Awesome.
Hannah
Yeah.
is doing so much work for you. It's beautiful.
Yes, we're so lucky to have her. She's like, yeah, she has many hats. She's a chief strategist in addition to being a fundraising director. But now she's getting more support as well. So we have another awesome person. Her name is Tristine Yin. She actually used to work on Marianne Williamson's staff, and she's now heading up. She's a separate fundraising coordinator now. So we're really trying to focus on that because just for campaigns, like for the primary cycle, what we did was, even though we entered the game late, our website was launched the first week of October. We like so everything was late, but yet we just focused on fundraising because every single tutorial or conference or teleconference or whatever I went to would say fundraising, 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 and then do get out the vote the last 2 or 3 months. And so I was like, all right, since I'm a first time candidate, I don't want to reinvent the wheel or anything. I'll just do what they say. And so that's what we did. And I think for being a first time candidate and team, I think it was the way to do it like that, because otherwise we probably wouldn't have started with anything. And I think that's what helped us get a little further than kind of other candidates might have been, because we actually, like, there was not a day, like, guys, where oh my gosh, I was working 12 hours a day, and like on the way to work from 7 a.m. to 9, like 7 a.m. to 8 a.m., 8:30 a.m., I would call in my car on the way to work because it takes me an hour and a half to drive to Culver City. So then for an
Wow.
hour and a half, I'm on calls with friends or supporters or people I've met in my life who live on the East Coast. So then I'm calling them, and then during lunchtime, like my hour, I go into my office or my car, and then I'm straight calling for an hour straight doing fundraising calls. And then on the way home, from 6:30 to 8:30, I'm doing also fundraising calls. And so I think that's what we're also, for this cycle, we're getting back into the mentality of. And so, but this cycle, we're really kind of expanding our network and reach, and we need to really perfect our messaging. And so I've had like yesterday morning and the morning before, our new fundraising coordinator, Tristine, she would jump on these calls with me. So we're doing cold calls now. Last primary cycle, I had gone through my personal contacts. So for fundraising, there's candidate call time, which is the candidate making personal calls for fundraising. And then there's the other type of phone banking where it could be checking in on constituents, seeing what kind of COVID-19 relief they need, or it could be maybe low dollar push efforts kind of phone banking. So that's done by the volunteers. But for your high dollar donors, they want to talk to the candidate. And so candidates are encouraged to do call time at least 3 to 4 hours a day. And so right now we're doing that, but then since we're now in a general cycle campaign race, we really need to shape up our message and perfect that more. And so we actually started doing our candidate call time phone call and phone banking after we got Andrew Yang's endorsement. So, so with that being said, now it's like, hey, my name is David, and I was recently endorsed by Andrew. I just want to talk to you, and it's just having a conversation more than like doing an ask for money. Because I mean, if it gets to that, that's where it gets to that. But I think right now it's just kind of connecting with people who have demonstrated active support for campaigns like ours in the past, and so kind of connecting with them. So, but yeah, that would be my normal morning right now. But then I was like, oh crap, I have to go on Yang Gang Roundtable with them right now. But I can do calls later too. And then we're doing a lot of upgrades right now. We're transferring to our new website, and so I need to finish some copy for that, send it to our copy team. But no, I'm so glad to be here. So how often are you guys on? Just on are you always on video?
No, no, it's a thing we
No.
started doing in an attempt to grow our audience, reach more people, humanize us. I prefer to not be on video, but you know, here we are. I'm
You're
trying
great. Yeah.
to be on video and lead by example, and you know,
Awesome.
thanks everyone who's on video. And
Just
we
film
try
a
to be
person.
really egalitarian here. You know, some people don't have cameras, some people have anxiety, some people have dirty homes or don't like the way they look or whatever. So you know, and we keep it like camera optional, so as to not exclude anybody.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
so it's a little bit of a mix, and we're just proceeding. We're trying to figure out how this works for us and our audience, and it's a new thing we're trying.
Mhm.
We're still kind of like in the startup phase, so we're kind of seeing.
Yeah, we just started this
I
at
love
the very end of February.
Oh, whoa, that's very recent. I love this though because like later on in the general cycle when it's like I don't know, August, September, October, you guys can have me back on and I'll be like, "Oh
Oh,
yeah, remember
for
back
sure.
in May?"
Please come on anytime. We basically
Yeah.
the idea is, you know, we do 4 shows a weekend. And in addition to being, you know, a podcast and a show, it's kind of a hub for people in the Yang Gang or just UBI advocates even outside the Yang Gang to know each other, to connect with each other, to reach each other. So that's one of the reasons I have it on Discord instead of Zoom. So we have a
Okay.
server, and it's a place if you want to get back in touch with us, you can. And also, if you just feel like dropping in on like our Saturday informal discussion or like one of our like afternoon panel discussions with a
Oh,
with another you know speak with another person we're
Like
interviewing, and you just want to like
you,
watch, you
you
can just come in, or if you
you
want to
can just
contribute to
jump
the
in
conversation.
like anytime you
Yeah,
want,
it's like a
just like
semi-open
that.
forum. Once
Like
you've been invited on,
you
you can come on again and contribute to the ongoing conversation on poverty, basic income, and electoral politics, because this is what we all have to be talking about at this point in
yeah,
history.
for
Yep.
sure. I love it.
By the way, congratulations on the Andrew Yang endorsement. Yes, we can.
Yes, we
I haven't
can.
heard that one yet. Congratulations, that's
Yes, we
wonderful.
can.
Thank you so much, Angelo. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. Oh, Angelo. Oh, yes, he is also an amazing addition to our team. Yeah, we've just been having so many great people just join with their own expertise, like with press kits or like doing that if that's their expertise, or with merch, and so we've been really blessed. Obviously, the Andrew Yang endorsement has been a big thing for us because I think one of the things that for us, why is that important to us? I think for us, it actually gives us, not that our campaign wasn't legitimate, but I think, I mean, usually like for pundits or the media, there needs to be that to it, and so it puts us on the national radar, and it really kind of localizes while also nationalizing our own local issues that we have here in Los Angeles, which is homelessness, which is corrupt politician and developer relationships. We have FBI raids on 2 city council members, like so that's only the beginning and the cusp of it all, like and so I think for us that's a huge thing because given that not that LA is a more important city than any, because every city is equal too, but then given the stature and size of LA, you would think that things would be more orderly here and things would be
Right.
more evenly distributed, but it's not the case.
Yeah,
And
like
so Yeah, go ahead.
You live in LA, and then everybody thinks like, oh, you must know this celebrity. Like, no. Hollywood does not look like the Hollywood that you're thinking of. Those are the Hollywood Hills. Like our Hollywood, like you see all sorts of crazy, ridiculous things. I just want to get out of there. But go ahead, David.
Yeah. No, it's
There's
just so
homeless out there.
it's so really sad because I think like even if you were to get off from like let's say I was just doing this trying to imagine myself as a first time visitor flying into LA. Like even just getting off of the LAX airport and then going to go see your favorite or go eat at the favorite foodie place that you've heard of and you wrote on your bucket list or going to some touristy place or restaurant in Hollywood. Like you're gonna see so many unhoused brothers and sisters on the streets and you
No,
can't help but to think while driving it's like what the fuck? Like what's going on? Like,
Portland's
it's
the same
so
way though. Portland, like I hadn't been here in a few months, and the homeless camps have like tripled, quadrupled in size, and they're right off the roads now, so you can see these camps, right? And you got like 10 different tents with tarps connecting them, and there's like a whole community popping up on the side of the
yeah.
roads.
And the thing I think that we have to realize or kind of have others to realize is like it's not their fault. Like I think with that many communities of our people in that situation, there's something systemically wrong at issue. And that's obviously all the issues that some of you guys are really passionate about as well as I am about. And if we don't have those issues being discussed and passed, then this is just going to increase and we're just going to have more people and I think it's this breaking this mentality of like it's not their fault. There's actually a bigger systemic thing going on that we really need to fix as a people ourselves. And and so that I mean that's the only kind of reason why I threw my hat in the race.
And
Like
even
yeah,
right,
It's like
very
we're
even
all
if
saying that in our different ways.
yeah,
even if you're a Republican or a conservative, I'm sure, like David, you said you have conservative parents. Are they happy when they see all these unhoused people in these tents? I'm pretty sure they're not. I'm pretty sure that, like, it's just a human thing that you don't want to see this around you. You don't want to be like walking through it. It's like you want to say like, why is this even happening? No matter if you're a liberal or conservative or independent libertarian, like I'm just saying,
and I do have hope though because kind of seeing how the political climate and like social commentary and political commentary has been like with the suspension of Andrew Yang's campaign, with the suspension of Bernie's campaign, and like how it's riled up people and all of that. I am very hopeful though because I feel like it's no longer kind of the period and age where we'll be complacent anymore. We'll just be with okay, and where we're now being more proactive and bringing more change in that. And so I'm very hopeful that's where we're moving towards in that direction, and that's why we have like people like you doing like this is amazing. Like I I would never have thought like I don't know, this is a cool thing to do and it's actually really cool, but then I think it's breaking the mentality of like politics is for people's in their I don't know whatever your
It's changing
whatever
the
your
mentality.
stereotype of
Yeah.
them is, but
Yeah, changing that mentality
yeah.
of who politics is for is certainly part of why we do this. Thank you for
like
noticing. I'm glad you get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
anyone who pays taxes, it should be going towards like what you want and your voice. And if it's not, then why aren't you questioning it? Like
Yeah.
every time you see like sales tax, income tax, property tax, well, if that money is coming out of my pocket, why isn't it going to things that I actually want?
And I
You know?
and I so I feel like there has to be like this bigger movement to not just get out the vote, but like this deeper rooted awareness sort of campaign where it's like, yo,
Mhm.
when you flush the toilet, that's politics right there. It has nothing to do with you, then don't use the toilet. Like but it's like kind of getting ingrained like, oh,
Right.
this is like getting a driver's license or like
Mhm.
like not being able to
Oh,
drive like that's one of the basic things and yeah go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
so
David.
mentioning the driver's license thing. Okay, did you know that there is a state, Arizona, that your license doesn't expire until you're 65? Why can't we have that in other states? Like,
Whoa, that's cool.
realistically, it's all about the money, right? And the reason why they did it until you're 65 is because of the money. Yeah.
Well,
My license expired during quarantine, so DMVs are closed. So I'm that's why I'm passionate
Well,
about
there need
that.
to be some update procedures in place, um, in regards to that. But I mean, I get your point though. That's a very valid point though. Yeah.
well,
Um, yeah, it's just like because like giving you an example, in our district, there's a little less than 700,000 people. 302,000 are registered voters. About 100,000 of them vote. So 100 out of 700,000 end up choosing who their representative is. But if we actually like just even double that, oh my gosh, like what kind of change could we bring with that? Like, holy crap, like just in all of our measures and policies that we pass and everything else too. But it's just kind of sparking that, and I think that's the next thing, and I believe that we're getting there. So I'm still hopeful about it.
Generation hasn't known how to do a lot of this stuff either. It wasn't until recently, I think, that younger people like woke up. They're like, wait, this isn't working, guys. How do I politic? Like it was like a whole new thing.
Yeah, no,
Right.
you're right. I remember because I had followed Marianne for like 10 years because I read her books. But she when she had first came out, in terms of the presidential race, she was getting a lot of slack from like the inspirational life coach, spiritual church community about, oh, why are you going into politics? But for her, she was like, what are you talking about? Spirituality is politics. Politics is spirituality. You're helping the
It's
psyche
like
and
conscious.
mental well-being consciousness of the people. Exactly, you pinpointed it, Ariel. Like you are actually in that direct service and action. There's nothing more direct actionable about
Right.
that. And
And
so it's like, what are you talking about? This is the application part of what you absorb in those workshops or weekend seminars or books or whatever. Like this is the time where you apply that. And so that's what I loved about Marianne, because she's kept on with I think it's Angel Food, Project Angel Food on Wheels, where she's provided to the LGBT queer community back in the when the AIDS epidemic was going, when it was very severe back here locally in LA. She started with that, and she's all action, action, action shows forth for it, and like that's what we need in the government. And I know Ariel has a lot to say about that, but that's what we need, like action from our representatives. We don't need somebody just to be there and just to vote
right.
in the majority direction of their party
Right.
and just be another tally. We don't need another tally mark for LA. We need
Oh,
another person like that's
no.
actually voicing their opinion.
Right, right. And I
So,
think you hit on it. If a politician is saying something or if an elected representative, like I need to see a plan of action. I need to see like, okay, you said it, like how are you going to implement it? If you don't show that to me, then what's the point? And the funny thing is like when Obama was running and he said like change and yes we can and all that stuff. Okay, like but like how? And then it's like, oh, we'll figure that out later. Like, no. And then it's like, and then when Trump ran, I mean, forgive me, but like, I thought like, oh, he's gonna bring like all these, good paying jobs to like our people. And then when he finally got in, I'm like, well, I mean, I didn't really feel like the good jobs that I was talking about were like, I don't know about LA's manufacturing center, but I really didn't feel like my economic situation changed. I just feel like everybody gets so wrapped up in the rhetoric, but then when it comes to like implementable plans, it's like we don't see anything. Nobody ever says anything.
yeah.
I think that's what was so revolutionary about Yang at a lot of levels. He had actual actionable plans for 100 policies that was really flabbergasting, especially compared to the rest of the field where it was vague word salads of
Just these
ideas.
platitudes.
But
yeah,
that's taught. It's
I
taught
said
to
with
go ahead.
yeah, I said with Andrew Yang that he was overprepared for the world's longest job interview. Also, on a side note, I live in Arizona, and I'm consider yourself lucky that your guys' licenses do expire, because some of our drivers should not be on the road.
Well, it said after 65 you got to get a check every like something amount of time. I don't know, but okay,
So
fair.
that's a reason for an update.
I mean, Wisconsin's one of the
my
states
oh,
that's solving the DMV closing problem by just passing people without tests right now. So
oh wow.
So kind of
Uh,
like
Are
Arizona.
you serious? Oh, are you serious? I wasn't
dead
aware.
ass, dead ass. They
What?
just have to. They don't have to do a practical car test for the
You-
young drivers right now. They're just getting licenses.
Well,
wow.
your practical car test is pull out of the parking lot, go around the block, park. That's it for Arizona, and you have your license until you're 65.
Wow.
I'll just need to know what. So it's literally just driving around the parking lot once.
Yeah, well, driving around the block, you pull out of the parking lot and just drive around the block, and then
Okay.
come back and park.
Oh,
So
wow.
everyone should get their license in Arizona.
So the reason it's such a big deal for me is I've been fully nomadic for over a year. I sometimes settle down into people's homes for, a week or two.
Oh,
Uh,
got it. Okay.
but being nomadic, it's really hard you don't have an address, right? And so like it's the same problem homeless. Just nomadic is a less derogatory term. Uh, and it's more exciting, right? But anyway, it's like if I had
I'm writing that down right now. Your concern or your issue that you have. But yes, continue.
Oh, awesome. But yeah, because I'm fully nomadic though, and my license expired, I don't have a mailbox to even get a like thing sent to. I'm just gonna use my mom's here. But like I have purposely fallen through the cracks so I could help us figure out how to fix our country, in a lot of capacities. But I've also been investigating what it's like to be in homeless shelters. I used to be a professional cuddler, so I had pillow talk with the nation as I traveled. So like I really got to dive deep into investigative journalism in some capacity to figure out how to fix things. But then I'm like, okay, I just need a platform where I can talk to people who are into politics who can actually make actionable changes happen. So to be able to talk to you, someone who's trying to make change, it helps a lot.
Yes. No, this is really great. And again, another reason why I love this kind of stuff. This is awesome. What they say, I think it's up until people that are age 45 or 50, the majority is all kind of like the progressive majority in that sense. And so I think I'm very hopeful that, I mean, it's kind of, I'm not hoping for anybody to pass or anything, but in a few years we'll get there where we are replacing every single seat of Congress and Senate eventually. And I think
Yeah.
people say, "Oh, David, you can't believe in electoral power too much." And it's like, "No, you haven't even seen it fully maximized and empowered. What are you talking about?
Right.
You haven't even
To
seen
your
it happen.
point, to your
Like, we
point,
haven't
we're
even seen
having.
the."
Oh yeah, sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sometimes it's like a little delay in Discord. It makes it hard to tell when people are done talking. I feel so bad cutting people off.
No, you're
I was
good.
trying to support what you said, but to your point, tomorrow we are having a debate on the case for Biden or lack thereof, and I had a very hard time finding a couple of young people who are likely Biden supporters, and even they, when they agreed to come on the show, they ensured that I would introduce them in a way that was qualified, that they are not just Biden supporters, they are likely Biden supporters, and they were previously not Biden supporters, and Biden's not their first choice, and it's just so. Man, it's bad. Biden's like an albatross to be connected to at every level of politics right now. I think that does actually speak pretty well for the likelihood of the Democratic Party actually changing in the future.
Well,
So maybe the present even. It's happening. It seems to be
I
happening.
mean,
Yeah.
I'm wondering, like, if David actually wins and gets into Congress, like, David, will you have some kind of line to, like, these other people who are already there and, like, talk to them, and whatever kind of, like, responses you get for them about things, you tell, like, the people, this is the conversation I had, with this congressperson or that congresswoman, and I talked to Biden about UBI, and this is what he thought about it, because it's like we're always left in the dark. and it's frustrating.
Yeah, I think it should definitely be a more integrative process because the whole idea of democracy and representative form of government is we're actually there. I'm already saying as we're actually there. Oh, I guess we're going to be there, guys. We're actually there to support and represent your values and what your interests are. And so I think I tweeted about this a couple times late at night. I have these like late night like type of moments. And so one of those moments were like, oh my gosh, why are you guys making decisions on your own inside closed rooms without sharing any with
Right.
anybody? And then you don't even respond back to like actually respond back to the requests that come to you in regards to even the top leaders of any movement, even. I mean, it's just a simple generic letter. And so it's kind of without giving any gauge of what you're even considering, like bam, 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 this is what we're considering, whether it be a sort of open release, like kind of bam, it's easy to do, like, hey guys, this is what we're considering. Like even that's super helpful. But I think the whole idea of a representative form of government is you actually go talk with your people and say, hey, this is what we're talking about right now. Like, what are your guys' thoughts? Okay, got it. Good. All right. Hey guys, so I talked with my district and group and like this is what we're thinking. Let's vote. And like that's the form of government really, but I think it's more, oh hey guys, what do you think's good for your, oh I think this is good for my people, without even knowing what's good for them. And then they go back and hey guys, we're helping you, and they're like, but this doesn't help them. How, I mean it helps me a little bit, but how about, okay, this one doesn't help me. Like there's the confusion. It's like, dude, it's not something so hard to really fix. Like was that something complicated? That was so easy to understand, right? Like, and yeah, Ariel, go ahead. Sorry.
I remember like it's okay. I was in Beverly High, and I remember like being there, and then I saw that like these kids wrote letters, and then they said like I was like 17 years old. These are the letters that we wrote to our Congress people, and these are the responses we got. And I swear to you, every single response that these kids got was from an autoresponder. And the teachers didn't even notice that. It was just like an auto response, like we appreciate your concern, we're working on it, we'll get back to you. And the teachers like posted those responses on the wall that were like, okay, like that didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like
There
who
definitely should be an auto response on politics, in my opinion.
Right.
Like,
It's just like no, you don't understand. I am not a number. I'm a person who like has ideas and I have goals and I want to see something happening in my life, and people being treated like numbers. Now it's just dehumanizing. It's like you're just a statistic, right? It's like no, because like you didn't send us an auto response. You came here. You're like, oh, okay, like here, I'm gonna send this like bot or like automate away like my decision making and just
How do you
like
know I'm not
pretend to know what you guys want.
Okay. Yeah, no, you're totally right. What I love, you just made me think of AOC, regardless of whether or not you agree with her on things, but she's really like people community oriented because I went to law school in New York and I was there this past December because a law school friend was just like, hey, let me help you throw a fundraiser here. So I went there and oh my gosh, like she's having town halls left and right with each community in her district in person during like the holiday season. And I'm like, holy crap, like you're amazing. And she's just sitting there for hours, just like talking with them. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what a rep is like. Like that's what community government, like representing, being with the people's like. And
The idea of
and
leadership is service. Yeah, just returning to America. So
yeah,
We've actually got a local representative that's like that. He goes to all of the local events. He's the only politician I've ever written a letter and I got what was very clearly not an auto response back. It was a page long paper back on UBI actually. And how he felt that was something that needed to be done at the national level
oh
because he's
nice,
only a
Liz.
state representative. But yeah, we do have a few like that. We just need more.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. You're right. I mean, and it's acknowledging and giving credit to those that are there, and just kind of like replicating and multiplying that. I mean, I think once we reach that critical mass, then we're good and we're set.
And
I was
and
talking
and
about Rashida
So,
Tlaib's,
David,
coin plan very recently, a few minutes ago, and she's just fantastic. So yeah, go on, Angelo.
okay, David, I wanted to ask for family members I got listening in LA. can you explain? Sorry, can you explain what the financial freedom, love, and justice stand for?
You're cutting out.
Oh,
Or
I heard him. He said, "Can you explain what love, financial freedom, and justice stand for?"
Yes. Yeah, I one of the big things about me has just been just the inequalities in so many areas with the policies, with our economic I guess distribution per se of money and all of that. And so kind of to be more specific, for me, it just bothered me that not bothered me, but it was just so sad just to see like every meeting I go to or community event or neighborhood council meeting or whatever outreach, every single person has 2 to 3 jobs, like, and they're, like, trying to make ends meet, and they don't have time to hang out or do anything because they have 2 to 3 jobs, and they need to make money, but then they're still not they don't have, like, a bunch of savings, and and the savings that they have, it's like a few hundred, and it's like, yo, this reality, it's not stats, like it's not stats. And I think that's the thing that for me was just so bothersome. Like we tend to, yeah, stats are good because they help us understand what's going on and help us connect with it, but I think we've become so desensitized where these stats are now just stats. They've lost their purpose of
Mm-hmm.
why they're there. And so I think,
thing.
and and so, like, for me, it was just so sad, like, "Yo, we have people, like, 2 families living in apartments here in my neighborhood, like, 3 families, like, what's going on? Like, this is not right." And so when Kenneth Mejia came along, 2018, he, imagine, like, a small flame, he, like, freaking blazed it into a fire, and I was like, "Yo, this guy's all about giving back economic power to the people, giving back more protections, giving back more representation, actually caring and loving them and tangibly and showing what that means." And so that's what got me on fire. And so for me, I think justice came down to 3 areas, which was financial freedom, love, and justice, justice being the main area. But for me, it kind of talks about in order to really start on justice for the people, we actually need to give the people financial freedom and power. Because I'm not saying that economic freedom equals everything. I'm not saying that. But then to a point where people are striving day in and day out, but yet can't still see the light at the end of the tunnel, what are we doing right now? We actually have to enable that and allow that to happen at least. And allow that to happen and like kind of taking off the financial chains of slavery. Yeah, Ariel.
Me and Angela were just talking about this. It seems like as a millennial generation, like our entire generation has been gaslighted into believing like an education was like the financial freedom that you were talking about. I want you to think about this.
No,
We were
it's bondage.
right,
I
exactly.
Yes.
We were gaslit. You remember what they used to say? They said if you dropped out of high school, you'd have like a lousy minimum wage job and you'd be struggling. But they said, but then you go to university or something, like you just go into middle management, you'd like bypass all of that stuff. And okay, so we do that, and then they say, and then we graduate from university, and then they tell us, oh, so you think you're too important to get this minimum wage job, lousy job, like just because you graduated university? Excuse me, put on the brakes and back up. You said if I quit high school, I would have this job, and you said I would get there if I graduate university. Now you're going back on your word, and you're just accepting us to go like, oh, okay. No, like, what the hell?
Yeah. You have a lot to say there. Yeah, no. Oh, go ahead. Somebody was gonna talk. Babe, were you gonna or no, Eliz?
I just said he was very passionate about it.
Well, I mean, we were lied to.
No,
Point blank.
you're right. And it's just and I could go on and on about financial freedom, but I'll wrap it up in 2 minutes. The financial freedom part is like it just doesn't make sense. Like this is something that I just don't understand. I don't even know where to start again. But it
Please
just
go on
doesn't
and on.
it boggles thank you, D'Angelo. Thank you, Angela. It boggles my mind that like the government's like I know this sounds harsh, but the
Oh
government's
no, we're used to it. Yeah.
the
We're used
government's
to it.
the government's just letting the people be raped financially by
Okay, that was harsh,
the
but yeah,
forces,
go.
the forces that are going the forces that are going at play, like in the sense of we need to reel everything back in. Like when you got rid of pensions 30 plus years ago, which was, and this is something that I tell people, like the if we were sitting on a chair that like represented our financial kind of stability and ability to live once we retire from work, it was the one leg was company pensions, the second leg was social security, the third leg was savings. But then 30 plus years ago, you take out that one leg and then bam, you have a chair with two legs that's like floppy. And then while they take out the pensions, they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna come back with something else, we're gonna come back. Nothing comes back. So now
Right.
you have now you have a two-leg chair that the people have to sit on. Social security is eroding, and then their savings, are they able to save during a 30 plus year income wealth gap with the wage stagnation that's happening? No. So then the savings, like it's like this chair with two legs. The savings leg is like getting like eroded, and then the other social security. So now it's like there's no legs on the chair, and the people are like this, and then everybody's like, "Yay, we're making change! We're
So,
making
so,
change!
so
We're
why,
making
why
change!"
are Congress people not getting their salaries revoked? I don't get it. It's a conservative value that you get paid when you do your job, and you get paid more when you do your job well. They are not doing their jobs. Why are they getting paid? Like I
Well,
mean,
they're like
I'm just
beyond
going
the
with
threshold where failure is possible in this
right.
country. Like if you
Exactly.
have
It's
enough money and enough status,
look
you have this sort of unspoken insurance that if you don't do
right.
it correctly, it's fine. You'll just go
You
get the money somewhere else.
they are our servants. So they're kind of like, if you think about it, they are the employees of the people. And
Yeah, no, I mean very much so. Literally,
they
yes.
have
The
been really
leadership
bad
as servants.
employees of this, we are the people are the government, so they're supposed to be our employees and we're like their employers. So why aren't they fired? I just
Well,
said it. I
yeah.
just said
I
Because
it.
mean,
we're not
who knows
paying
what
good enough
leadership is? Yeah.
attention to fire them.
Well, you
We
know,
Right.
keep voting them
it's
in.
funny. Me and Ariel had talked about this on a previous podcast, but we mentioned how the Constitution specifically states that it is forbidden for the government to make a nobility class. However, basically, the definition of
We
a
have
nobility
one.
class is a class of people that have special rights and special financial gifts that the rest of the population does not have, which means that they get paid. Typically, in the old nobility class, they were paid by the government, typically the king, and they had special rights and privileges above that of the average citizen, which is precisely what Congress has now. So, in a odd way, they created a
Right.
pseudo nobility class, which I think we need more people like David to go in and
Oh, yeah.
shake things up and remind them that
Hey,
the
like
people are the focus.
you're not
Yeah.
the lords and ladies of like this isn't Great Britain, you know. Yeah.
But what's so cool to see is the fact, and I think, I mean, maybe we were there also 2 years ago, but then having this election be a presidential cycle probably increases the spread of that. But when you go on Twitter or when you go online, it's like just seeing a wave of down ballot candidates, whether they be exclusively a blue hat or exclusively a red rose or both or whatever. Like regardless, you have a lot of people running across the country, and it's like, yes, this is what's happening. We need more people that wouldn't run for office, and this is how we bring more change. This is how we, because when you see that, that's also an effect of people actually being touched here and realizing, holy shit, why the fuck have we been quiet? We actually need to do something right now.
Right.
So it's actually a good positive kind of result and effect that change is happening. So it is good to continue to be hopeful in that. And so that actually shows that the message is going out, because once people that don't run for office, now their communities around them and all their circles are automatically activated. You don't think any friend has not received a phone call or email from me? They all have. And so it's that's how we branch out and expand more. And so it excites me when I see people who would never run for office. So I would love to see all of you guys run next election too. But
If
Ariel,
someone was
Ariel's
willing
talked
to
about it.
bankroll
Oh
me,
goodness.
I'd run. If you have a sponsor, I'd do it tomorrow.
Well,
Maybe we'll
David,
find
I
some
can't
Some
say
legwork.
I can't say that I would want to run, but if it meant working with you again in the future, I would consider it. Me and
Right.
Ariel also pointed out one interesting thing. We're both born in a specific year that also is the name of a.
Dystopian book. Oh, Angelo, you muted for it. He's dying in 1984. You and him. And
Yeah,
yeah, you and Angelo. Yeah, we're born in 1984.
1984. It's a
Yeah.
very. I mean, I was like born in that year, and I was like, I was reading the book, and I was like, what the. No.
Right.
I was like, it's my year. No, I was kidding. I enjoyed the book. But no, and then I was also born in Arizona, and Angela's from Arizona. So I was born in
Right.
Sierra Vista, 40 minutes outside of Tucson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, no, you're so right. It's good though just to see, like, I mean, Angelo also, if he doesn't run, he's gonna still be helping out on something. I mean, he's bringing so much value to our campaign, and like, I mean, his communities are activated by his involvement. And so I think it's a matter of just igniting those around you. And it's not purposely or intentionally doing that for the sake of it. But if you're really genuinely passionate about it, that's just a byproduct of it.
Exactly. Uh,
Um,
I have a great idea for you, David. Like, go after like Republicans and conservatives too on these ideas of like our elected representatives are not doing their job, so why are they getting paid? Like, aren't you responsible with your own money? You would rather it go to some like politician who like hardly helps your communities or helps you people, or would you rather it just go directly into your pockets? And then get together with what was his name, Dan Larson, who's running on UBI as a Republican in Montana. So just say no, this transcends all this partisan stuff. We want to count on ourselves more a little bit with this UBI to do even better for our communities, because we've seen what these elected representatives are doing, and they're just enriching themselves. So
Ariel,
Well,
it can cut
let me
both ways.
pitch
well,
you on
that's
something regarding to that, and maybe we can get David Kim's opinion on it. Why don't, if you can manage to run, I would encourage you to run as a Republican. What do you think of that?
hold on, where
The room goes silent. All right.
Ariel, tell us.
That's actually something I'm thinking of
Wait,
doing for a
I
county
absolutely
seat.
think
say
you should too.
that
As a
again.
Republican and a woman, it's just even better. Absolutely do it.
Wait,
They do
David,
seem
say
to fall for that like crack.
Whatever
David,
works.
what did you say?
Oh, hold on. Let me input this adapter really quick.
Sure.
okay.
Ariel,
Well,
he
you're
was
doing that.
asking if you would consider running as a Republican.
Sure.
Fantastic. You should.
But
It's just the
I was gonna
tactical.
say,
It's
what
the
does your
tactical
district
move.
look like?
I think nonpartisanship is the only way to make real progress in a case where we have a bipartisan corporate captured government. So we need nonpartisanship to overcome it.
Well, you guys already know that I'm working on a plan to testify before Congress, right? And we've specifically asked for the panel to contain people that are Democrats, Republicans, and we also want people that are independents. So we completely depoliticize this, saying that, we are the constituents of these parties, so to speak, and we all agree that this needs to be done. It's not a Republican issue. It's not a Democrat issue. You have people in both, and the independent voters that everyone's trying to get, they're here too.
So how might someone listening be able to get involved in that, Angela?
Contact myself or Hannah Wan. We're the two that started setting this up. You can find us on Twitter at Hellion Hellfire and now Hannah Wan. And just contact us. Let us know that you are interested in becoming a speaker and representing your community to the federal government, and make your voice heard out there. We are still taking speakers.
Wait, David, what did you say? You had something to tell me. I didn't hear it.
Oh no, that was it was just what does your district look like? Because what your
Oh,
district look like also matters. Um,
yeah. So I think that the congressperson here, her name is like Karen Bass.
oh,
But I
okay.
mean, yeah, she's okay. She's, kind of like a vanilla. I don't know, like I don't know, like what she like stand for. It's kind of like, oh, hi everyone, is everything okay? Okay, bye everyone. Like, kind of like those kind
So
of people. So
a status quo
yeah, yeah,
mainstream Democrat.
and I
A
remember
party
like
line
when I
Democrat.
when I went to a town hall once, and I just shouted the phrase like, "We need to modernize our schooling system," and she went like, "Yeah, we need to modernize our schooling system." It's like, okay, so
So what
like,
does
and
it
then it
mean?
ends there. It's like, okay, so where does it go from there? Oh no, I just like repeat what you say, so you're happy, but I'm not really gonna do anything. It's like,
I think
okay,
yeah, I think what I've learned, and I tell this to everybody that I like work with or whatnot, is they're like my teachers. And what I've learned during this campaign season, even in the last month, is like in that instance, Ariel, because I've been trained. Like candidates, we go through some training. I've been through a Twitter training. I've been through an Instagram training. I've been through an etiquette training. I've been through whatever training there is. But we've been trained to the point where now, Ariel, if I was in that situation and you had shouted in a meeting or town hall saying, David, we should modernize the school system, I would have been like, yeah. And then later I would have been like, hey, Hannah, Cindy, can you get Ariel's info so we could set up a meeting and talk? I want to see what his
Oh,
concerns are.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So after the town hall was done, like I came up, and then she said, "Oh, well, here is one of my like associates, helpers," and I took down her information. I called her, I emailed her, got nothing back.
You guys didn't
Zero.
have a meeting? I would actually have an
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
meeting.
No, no, no. And then like I followed up on it, and then like she had an office in like Highland and something like over there on, what is it, like going a little bit towards downtown on Wilshire, I don't know. And then I went to her office, and I had a talk with one of her, helpers about like jobs and stuff, and he's like, yeah, we're just waiting for like all the boomers to like retire from their manufacturing jobs, and then after that you guys will all have jobs, and that's all we can do. Okay, bye.
You have to tell that
like
story when you run against her. Tell that
like,
story
yeah,
from the
it's
podium.
like, okay, well that was pretty pathetic. Like are you not like thinking of ideas, or consulting and like really seeing how to hash this out? All you have is like, oh, we're just waiting for them to retire, and then like you'll get a job later after that. Like, okay.
Wow.
And like you can just like not have a job and just like not do anything until we wait for these people to retire. It's like, oh wow, what an amazing answer. Like,
Oh, Ariel, I can tell you one fun thing about the David Kim campaign. They run a really tight ship over there. If they say, "Oh, we're going to get back to you on that," or if David writes down your concern, I can
right.
guarantee there's at least 4 or 5 people doing research and
Yeah.
getting something to his desk by the end of that week.
I mean that's the way it's supposed to be. Like, I'm sick and tired of all their nonchalant attitudes. It's like, hey, like, did we not vote for you? So like you're just kind of being like, oh yeah, like we'll just throw you a little bit of crumbs over here, and that's kind of like all we got. And like, okay, go back to your business. Bye.
The important thing is accountability, though. I think shedding transparency, like having a
Mhm.
conversation like this with David, this is transparency, right?
Right.
This is,
Yeah.
he can expose what he's saying, and like people can even refer back to something because they were part of a conversation like this.
Mm-hmm.
But like I was thinking about this organization called the League of Minority Voters, right? And so they started helping with speech and debate for kids because they had never experienced any of that. And so like they raise money to help like kids go to speech and debate, and like they actually have like 100% graduation rate, and then a lot of them go to college afterwards, right? But like they didn't know how to do that before because they were low income, right?
Right.
But we need more organizations to even teach how to be in politics, because
And
I mean I didn't know politics until Andrew Yang came along.
right. And do any of you guys find it a little bit strange and peculiar how, like Lucci said, one of the other people running for Congress, like we never learn about like all these things about like pensions and wages and salaries and commissions when we're actually in high school. Like we never have a conversation, and then they say like, oh, your parents will tell you all that stuff, but they don't. And then even when you learn about money and finances and all those things, and you don't have money, that's like taking a class on how to raise kids when you don't have kids. So what's the point? So like,
Yeah, and that's a serious, that's an actually really like legit issue. It's like one of those non-cliche actual campaign issues like Andrew had. Because even with our foster youth, like there's a lot of foster youth that aren't taught anything, and like that's how you equip people with nothing left to do nothing, and like that's what you're pushing them towards. You're pushing them towards.
Well, David, at least we have Shakespeare. Like that really helped me like balance my budget, and like all the polynomials I had, like all that stuff.
So the thing though too is we need to teach people how to teach themselves. We don't teach critical thinking like we need to,
No.
and that's part of the problem. Like I had to teach myself how to teach myself so I could teach other people how to teach themselves. Okay, it's a big long process.
And
Right.
yeah, and David, I don't know if you're a gamer or you have any gamers in your life, but one of the biggest lessons I learned from video games is like how to approach something from a different angle. Like if you make a mistake, you learn from it and then you go like another way. But you see, when you're financially limited, the mistake is like a life and death decision. So it doesn't allow you to grow. But then when you know, like, oh, I can make the mistake with this money and I'm not going to starve, maybe I'll take a risk here and there,
Yeah. Yeah. This is all very important stuff that needs to be talked about and addressed. And education's a whole different area in and of itself. I mean, going back to like the whole servitude, like you you don't let an 18-year-old sign like a home mortgage, like, but then with student loans, it's like, all right, they're just like,
They have to ask to go to the bathroom when they're 17 and take on thousands of dollars when they're 18. How does that make any sense?
yeah. So
While not having really been taught how loans or money work to begin
exactly,
with.
yes.
Begin with. So
the
they
great part of it, yeah.
capitalize on our ignorance. You do understand that, right?
Yes, that's definitely a very great point on that one. What Liz said. Yeah. But thanks for talking about these issues every week, guys. Like that's the way to do it.
Well, thank you for coming on. We do it
Yeah.
Friday through Sunday, 4 shows a week. You're welcome to drop in anytime, and if we can help you out with anything, just come in. If you need help from the 24 or so UBI advocates on this server, we're at your service.
Yeah, we're right here.
One, so this is the round tables channel.
Yeah,
Yes, it
Yang
is.
Gang
Yes, the Yang Gang Roundtable.
You can contact
Yeah.
any of us here again anytime.
Right.
Got it. Cool. And so is this being live streamed somewhere else, or is it just live
This is
streamed?
live streamed to Twitch, and
Live
it will
streamed
be
to
turned
Twitch.
into a podcast that will be released on Anchor,
Mhm.
Spotify,
Got
and
it.
it will also be on YouTube eventually.
Got
Yes.
I mean, it's not. It'll be on YouTube in like 5 or 6 days, not like months eventually. No.
All right, let's do a
and
yeah, no, go ahead, Ariel.
and then like take this what we said here and take it to the local like LA news stations if that's possible, and if they ignore it, well, that tells us a lot about them. That tells us, I'm saying.
Well, that wouldn't be my job, Ariel. So I'll
Okay,
see what I can
do
do.
that, Angelo. Right, let's get the ball rolling. Hell yeah.
Let's do a quick round robin. If you were running for office right now in your district, where you're at, in your home right now, what is your first campaign issue? 2 sentences, 2 to 3 sentences.
It seems like a softball here, but go on.
Okay, so I'll start here. In my area, it would be cleaner water.
Cleaner water, okay.
I'll go next. I know it's not really any order, but I think every town should have access to Wi-Fi because Wi-Fi is now the it we need it, right? It's inevitable that we need it for something. And I'm just in my mom's hometown and there's no reception for anything out here. And so it's disconnecting so many people and or you got to pay up. So I think I would want ours.
It's going to be really cliche for this group, but a UBI.
Yeah, that's what I would.
I live in the middle of rural Wisconsin. It's the Midwest. Yang was speaking it with that issue where the towns are dying. We need it.
Yeah, I can think of a few other things to do with second order priority that are uniquely local, but so I have to give the same uninteresting answer that is on message. I would just provide a local UBI, and I would see how much we can give to people and how much people need based on the cost of living, and figure out what we can manage at the local level. Because there's nothing that would help more.
Mm.
I'll give a unique one here. Creativity based education, especially in like areas of science and technology, like I don't know, 3D printing, what design, like acting stuff, so people can like express the more of like creative, imaginative parts of themselves instead of just
Oh my gosh,
work,
you
right?
just you nailed, no, that's so important. You nailed it right there. Because then when you don't do that, you have so many struggling artists paying an arm and a leg for these classes that are private courses in whatever area that you live in. And even in LA, I see actors paying thousands and thousands of dollars for the acting courses. That's like, what the heck? Like, that's crazy. Like, I mean, yeah, it's great for those acting teachers and whatnot. I mean, that's sort of the cycle and system where if you act and you're no longer relevant, then you go teach. But still, there's a way to do that without having so many people go bankrupt where their lives are all messed up, and then they go back home to their hometowns with their dreams destroyed. And it's like, are we even helping people achieve their dreams in that sense? Like, do you
Right.
realize how many people, like, even in the, and I only say it because I used to work in the music industry, and I used to I used to be into all of that. And so I'm very familiar. Like, there's so many people, even in the freelance industry here, just struggling and struggling. And it's like, if you give them a UBI, like, they're able to actually do stuff, like, without having to struggle so much. And like, that's how you make the American dream happen. Like, if you're really trying to talk about the American dream, like, it's not just like lip service all the time, but like, how does that tangibly look like? Like,
And
yeah.
Skillshare and teaching each other. Like the guy who's on just the other day, he's from Karma Credit. He created this essentially Skillshare barter trade thing where you reward nice deeds, and it's cryptocurrency though,
Hmm.
and you can exchange it for stuff. But it's just like, I did a really nice thing. Oh, thank you. Here you go. And it's like you don't have to have actual currency, and it could be a way to like migrate away from money
you
and
know
like
the
help each other.
the excuse of like the school administrators and the universities are like, no, but like that creativity stuff is not practical. But then, like, first of all, like there are a lot of creatives making like tons of money, and there are a lot of people who all like, and but all the testing and all the SATs and all the ACTs never helped me make any money. So guess what? No, your testing isn't practical. Some of your classes are not practical, and all that creative stuff is more practical than you thought it was. So you're already wrong.
I don't know how anybody would have survived without the arts during this quarantine right now. Like,
Right. Yeah,
in
yeah.
terms of
And
like
Oh,
and
any
like
content. Like,
I'm not filling in bubbles on a Scantron during this quarantine.
yeah.
You know.
yeah, I've actually, just to de-stress the other day because I was under the weather, I actually picked up my guitar for the first time since I left the stage. And
Wow,
I can,
that's
yeah,
awesome.
and I can honestly say, David, I kind of wish I knew you when I first started my business, or even when my band was actually out there touring, because the thing is, no one teaches you some of the most basic things that you need when you're starting a music career, which is
Yes.
how
Okay.
to market yourself, how to get out
You
there,
just
how to connect with your fans. And
yeah.
then when you go into the business world, they tell you, oh, well, try these standard marketing things, try funneling, try all this. And it's like, yeah, but how do you connect to an audience? How do you differentiate yourself from every other promoter out there? And the thing
I
is, you have to be creative to actually stand out in that kind of arena.
So I came up with this idea recently to find your Facebook groups and do Zoom calls with people with similar interests as you. So, they used to say it takes a community to raise a child. We can literally create communities now online through video chats like this. And we can have people teach each other now, and it won't even cost anything, right? And so I think if we start doing that a lot more, we could really just educate each other. And so join a group.
Oh,
Yeah.
also, there was an interesting idea that was brought up in a conversation I was back. Whereas, you know, once UBI is on the table and everything, all of us in the Yang Gang have pretty much become pseudo experts on UBI. So why don't we, as experts, so to speak, host town halls and answer people's questions about what UBI would do to them?
Yeah, we're kind of moving in that direction with this program, I think.
So
It's kind of, yeah.
I think what would be good. I'm gonna talk on Angelo's. No, actually, let me talk about the community stuff first, and then I'll go back to Angela's point about entertainment. For the community system, and this is something that I was just kind of reminded of. I was looking at a down ballot candidate from Florida. I forgot what her name is, Jen something. But I was looking at her Twitter, and she reminded me of a system that had started back in during the Obama campaign, where it was a house party system where you have a group of, and it depends on the size of your apartment or condo or house, but you invite anywhere from 3 people to 20 people to your house, and then it's sort of a house party. You have drinks and snacks, and then you invite the candidate over, and then the whole goal is to at least get 5 people from that house party to then host their own house parties and invite their own friends in their own networks. And that's how Obama won, and that's how other kind of candidates at state level started doing. But then that sort of fizzled out again, and I think it fizzled out. I don't know what it was, but it fizzled out regardless. So it fizzled out, but then I think now it's sort of coming back in the sense of, hey, now that we have quarantine, like we can't actually meet. And so I think it's sort of kind of building upon the idea. And I don't know if Jen is doing this in Florida, but what I told Hannah yesterday, or our team, our core over Slack yesterday, is, hey, we should do online meet and greets or online house parties where it's something like this, like you guys are actually the structure of it. And then, so the idea is, like, let's say this is our house party, Ariel organized it, let's say, or Angelo did, the both of you are co-hosts. Then the idea is Faye and Liz would go on and host their own house parties. And then from there, 2 more from their house parties. And so it's kind of multiplying that effect. But if you were to do that with UBI and really actually tell people, yo, UBI isn't just a kind of a cliche or like a popular thing to be behind. It's actually real and something that would actually bring blood and pump blood back into our communities and life. Like, we would have life again. Not saying that that equates everything. I'm just saying, like, financial power does mean a lot. And so the sustenance of that. And so kind of having that as a model, and like and finding creative ways to do that. It doesn't have to be labeled UBI, but just organizing different meet and greets and house parties and issues, so that when you're talking about important issues, then you talk about basic income. Like, what can basic income do for us, and like how transformative can that be for your community right now where Liz is living, or for whoever. Like, and that's a great idea to build upon.
Yeah, look at it this way. We're already giving like a bloated UBI to our Congress people who are hardly helping us. So,
Well, and I
it's
think a good audience for that is emerging right now. I don't know how if anybody else has experienced this with a bunch of your friends that you tried to yang during the election cycle, and now that quarantine is hit, all of a sudden they're coming back to you with your old arguments, like, yeah, no, you were right. Sorry, supporting this guy now.
the best.
Yeah.
It's we like we had someone in our D&D party who I was barred from talking politics at the game because I was having such a time trying to convince this guy. And just last week, he was sharing Yang articles to me because he'd finally come around on the idea that a UBI would really fucking help him right now.
Yeah. Oh, it would be so life-giving to all of us. And then in regards to like, I think it's a matter of just kind of seeing where these inefficiencies are. Something that Angelo had pointed out with entertainment is the only reason why, and at first I have to admit, like I got attracted to entertainment because it was like, ooh, glitzy, glam, whatever. But then as I got into it though, I was like, holy crap, there are masses of people being raped. Not sorry, I'm not gonna use that word. I apologize. There are masses of people
Okay.
being
Exploited.
taken advantage
Yeah.
of to like the max degree with their
Yeah.
finances, with their times, with their trusts, with their relationships, with their career plans, their lives. And like just seeing like these helpless artists who are fucking magnificently brilliant and creative and arduous, like just amazing virtuosos of their own kind. It's like, oh my gosh, your talent's amazing, but there's nobody to protect you right now because everybody wants to make money off of
And
you, and that's so
right.
sad.
Yeah.
And
No, I
David,
didn't mean to
So,
censor you before. It's I don't mind using the word. I was surprised is all. But yeah,
oh no,
I
no, I out of my
yeah,
own personal, it didn't fit with my own moral compass here too.
that's
Um,
great. Yeah, I just want to make like try not to censor anybody. But yeah,
oh yeah, no, thank you.
but yeah.
Um,
I mean, I'm a songwriter myself. I'm with ASCAP. You know, it's like I, it's amazing how there's a preponderance of people in music on the who end up on the show, and there's it's an extremely exploitative business, extremely exploitative.
but we never like hear that on the news. We never like know that this is happening. It's all swept out of the rug, and then it's like there should be like a class in high school, like how to not financially get exploited by a predator, whether they're selling an online course, whether they're selling an MLM, whether they have this offer. It's like basically we graduate from university, we call you high schools and universities, and they just throw us to the financial wolves, and in some cases they themselves are the financial wolves. So we're so financially illiterate in these institutions, and then they just say like, just work and you get money like that. That's the basis of our financial knowledge. Work equals money, work to make money, and that's all we learn in school and university, and that is a travesty.
now
Well,
here's no,
go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead, Angelo.
I was just gonna say, I actually got in contact with some old friends in the music industry that are struggling right now, and they're like, "How did I never hear about Andrew Yang?" And it's because they were doing show after show, and the only shows that, because half of the shows were paid, half of the shows the promoters were just saying, "Well, you're doing the show for exposure," so basically working for free. And it's like David was saying, it's a very exploitative business, but it's not the only exploitative industry. But a UBI kind of allows artists to be a little bit more choosy on who they're going to work for. And if they are doing shows for free, it's out of, the fact that they don't need the money. They genuinely want to connect with the fans.
Yeah, and no, you make a great point on that, Angelo, and kind of going back to like the whole people being taken advantage of as creatives. I think it's we're having a system that just enables it, and this process that just continues on for years and years. Because I get the whole point of like attorneys, like because I'm coming from the perspective of a manager and attorney since I've been in those roles before. So coming from the perspective of an attorney, you graduate from law school with over 200,000 in debt, and so you kind of and so you're kind of left with that, but you still do have a heart. And so I'm not saying that those who chose to different means have a bad heart or anything, but you're put into this awkward position, which we shouldn't be putting for our people in the first place at all, where people shouldn't be put in that awkward position of choosing this or this, and like per se in a way, but that's what our system's set up to be. And so I mean, I'm being honest. I have a lot of attorney friends that are like, David, that's how you still have debt. And like, that's how we don't. And it's like, well, my priorities are different. Like, that makes me be able to live, and like I'm not saying that's bad on them, like that's their priorities, and if that's okay with them, then that's their truth and that's their universe. And so but for me it's like, no, mine's different, but then but yeah, what am I gonna do about the debt that I have? But I think for me, it's like for an attorney, I feel like for any, and this is what I tell artists that I didn't make any money off of, because for me, for those artists that like there we had a certain kind of fee structure, flat fee percentage and whatnot, but there were a lot of clients that I didn't make any money off of. I helped them for 3 years legal. They didn't make any money because we set up a percentage thing where if you make money, I'll make money. They couldn't make money, and I understand that because it's tough. But then, and so it's like, even, and I think it's just kind of realizing, if we have more people from different parts of the industry, from this industry, from that industry, from this, then we're able to consciously legislate and be able to put things together. I'm not saying everything has to be perfect, but when you have a bill like AB5 in California, which is supposed to be helpful, from the core, but then in the implementation of it all, like there's so many things awry. It's like, come on, like there should have been more research, there should have been more collaborative integrative process in this, and like, I think that's what we're really lacking. And I think this is also the part that we need to share when we're activating people around us. Faye.
Oh,
Sorry.
a fun fact about David that I wanted to bring up, and because we're in a similar industry, I'm certain that there are dozens of K-pop idol groups out there that are absolutely thrilled that the new contracts that you put out um, actually replaced the old, slave wage contracts that they were signed on as kids, and then they were signed on, for like 5-10 years, and everything that they made basically went back to the company, and they got the bottom rung of that. So you actually changed that whole structure. So I just
Well,
wanted to give you credit where credit is due.
oh, no, I don't want to take primary credit for that. No. I'm just one of the people that that was kind of in the, because I actually took out a few major K-pop artists from their contracts, um because they're like 10-year contracts. So I mean, I did help in that regard, but I think it's just this overall, like, I don't know what it's called. I don't know if it's like common sense or heart, or like,
Or
or
just,
ability
I'm
to look
sick
at
of this
things,
BS and I'm not going to take it anymore. Well,
or
maybe it's called
diligence.
that.
It's a
Yeah.
core of values that directs your, that directs your choices. Like when I try to imagine who your friends are who advise you to make different choices to eliminate your debt, I have to wonder, like, where the holistic happiness that they implicitly are advising you will have if you act like they do comes from for them. I wonder how they look out, their window and from their building and go like, yeah, I made it. I cleared my debt. I'm in the 10% for whom this all worked, and feel holistically okay. Like they've done it. Now they can relax and the rest of their life is leisure, or like what is going through their mind? Or is it even like, I'm going to take care of my family and that's enough, and that's that. It's like, is that a realistic mindset to maintain your whole life? And is that really the ceiling of what you want to strive for as a person?
Yeah.
I would I would like to chime in on something here real quick. The fact that we have such high student debt incentivizes people to go after money in order to pay off their debt. So if you're in a field where you just got $200,000 worth of debt for your school, yet you are in charge of, like, things like people's lives, you've essentially just, or just, okay, let's do medicine. Doctors, they have huge medical debt, or debt for schooling. Okay, that's only going to incentivize them to find ways to pay it off, right? And so then, like, it's a little
I think
sketchy.
that definitely compromises on the quality and the amount of devotion and commitment to each case or matter or client. And that, I think that definitely has an effect, because sometimes I wonder, I look at an other attorney's work and I'm like, I mean, I'm not to say that I'm perfect or anything, but when I look at somebody else and I'm like, what? And you charge 850 an hour? I don't see that. I produce better work. Like, it's like, oh my gosh. But that's because they have their debt to pay and whatnot. And not to say that I don't, I do, but still I think it's just priorities. Because for me, like, to be honest, I'm just being completely honest, is I just wanted to see what life was like on the other side. So life, because for everybody it's like life is always greener on the other side, you kind of imagine and think. And so I worked my butt off. I graduated 2010 from Cardozo Law School, Jewish school in New York. I worked here in LA. I worked at the county DA's office. We went on a hiring freeze. They let us all go. And then I was scrambling looking for jobs. And this is the time, 2011, when law firms are closing left and right, like these major law firms because of the whole crash. And like, I remember my second year interviews, they were all being canceled. And I was like, crap, I have 200,000 in loans. What am I doing right now? And then I accepted a job in, I'm not gonna say the name. I accepted a job as as a litigator, and I was working 60 to 80 hours a week, um, and I was paid $2,000 a month on independent contractor status, and so with no benefits. And I was like, oh my gosh, what does my life come to? I'm like being paid 2,000 when you take out the money, that's like 1,400, and like, and then rent is basically equates that. And then I'm going to like these meetings or whatnot, and people are wondering, why is David always struggling, like not struggling, but why isn't he the one who's paying or taking care of the tab because he's the attorney in the group? And it's like, nah guys, like attorneys are like, some of us, I mean, it's dependent on what choices you make, but no, some of us are written because this is what we were given. And this is, and so kind of through that, I've navigated through my years from 2010 up until now, having then worked for different people for free. I had to work for free for a long time for different people. And then I worked my way up to the point where I really worked my ass. I worked my ass off. And like in October 2014, I set up the HollywoodLawyer.com. It's still there, the Hollywood Lawyer. And I sold it last year because I just wanted to see what life was like on the other side. And so I applied, and it was just, everything happened so fast. I applied for a director of music business affairs position at Sony Pictures, and within 3 weeks I had like 10 interviews, and after 3 weeks I got a job offer. And I remember hearing the job offer thinking it was an interview, but I was just being called in to be surprised. And I cried, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then the first month was a honeymoon month. I have to admit, it was, because you're getting paid a 6-digit salary. You have all of these benefits. You have parking lot in the parking structure right next to it because you're part of the higher music legal team, and like all of that. And when my boss's boss introduced me to the group, I felt very proud, because usually when people are introduced as the new employee of the group, they're like, oh, so and so's from Universal, so and so's from Warner, so and so's from Netflix. But for me, they were like, oh, David's really worked his way up. He's really built his own practice. He sold it, and he's really like been diligent in that. And for me, it was more like, I don't know why I needed to receive that as validation. Looking back as hindsight, I could just acknowledge that myself and say good job. But for me, it was just kind of, the first month was good, but then the second month, the third month, the fourth month, I realized that I was dying emotionally, where it was
Aw.
like, oh my gosh, because I'm spending all my life there, all my time there. I'm not going to talk about the environment that I was in, but I spent all my life there, and I was just thinking, wow, I'm kind of emotionally dying right now. And I was looking for something else in that, because there was none of the, basically my life had just become just me and the papers before me, and the contracts before me, while prior I was engaged in each person's individual lives, talking about like, oh yeah, yeah, no, I can wait. You need to go take care of your other jobs right now and finish those Uber rides that you have to finish, and then we'll talk about your EP album after. And then like I was engaged and personally engaged, helping and bringing meaningful change, and then to suddenly just be another minion in a, I mean, it's not to say that that's bad, because I mean, I enjoy content, but for me, I think for me, kind of being on the ground level up, making change in the direct policy making, working directly with the community is something that really activates me. And so when I actually I don't know if you guys saw the reboot of Party of Five, but there's a reboot of Party of Five on TV, and I was watching episode 1 and 2, and the parents are being separated from their children because they're being deported. And I was crying, and I was like, oh my, because it's a Sony TV show. And so that's the only reason, because I watched so much because of the music cues and the legal stuff I needed to do. But I was watching that, I was crying. I was like, oh my gosh, yes, we're separating so many families. There's so many people separated right now. And so that month I turned in my 3-week notice, and I'm an immigration attorney right now. And I go to court and I defend people in court. I try to extend their stay. I seek relief for them. if not, and then also try to get them a work permit. And so that's what I'm doing right now. And then COVID-19 happened. And then it was like, all right, guys, we're laying you off temporarily because all the immigration courts are now closed, which makes sense. But I mean, I think there's some talk about taking it all back to video conferencing again, which is fine, which will work out great. But I think in that sense, it's like, what for those watching or those in this conversation, I think all of us can attest to, like, life isn't here for us to just slip through and like just to make it and like just to kind of survive at the end and say, oh, I did it, guys. Like, we're not, life isn't there for us to be on our deathbed and be like, oh, I made it, guys. All right, good luck, guys. I'm gonna go die. And then it's like, no, that's not what life is.
Yeah, well, if you think about how much mental bandwidth all this is taking from you, if somebody pushes your head underwater, the only thing you can think about is air. So this is what's happening with us and money. It's like breathe. No. I just don't want my thoughts on breathing. I want my thoughts on living. Hello. So if these apartments and these houses and these mortgages have rent control, why don't universities have price control? I don't understand. Like, why don't we tie how much the university charges to how well the graduates are doing once they leave? I mean, we tie so much else to that. We talk about how young, you're supposed to like work hard for young people, but what about people who are providing the service? If they're providing the service and then people who graduate are constantly struggling throughout their lives, maybe their service isn't that great and maybe they shouldn't be charging as much as they do. Just a thought.
Right.
Well, the thing too, though, is we need to look at what's inevitable in the human life, right? It's inevitable you're going to have to go to the bathroom, right? It's inevitable you might need to wash up. It's inevitable you're going to need somewhere to put your head under that it saves you from the weather, right? But it's inevitable you need a credit card in today's society and an ID, and it's inevitable for a lot of things. And people are just being predatory on the things that are inevitable. And I understand great income stream, but that's not where we should be like attacking, right? And so we should provide these as a global service if it's inevitable, right? Or at least like a baseline that isn't like horrible. And once you have the floor, then sure, you want a better place or a better thing, that's great. But the free stuff that exists ain't that great either, though. You could qualify for a free phone. I've got to use one because I actually applied in LA for some benefits and stuff, and I ended up, one of my friends gave me a free phone, and that phone made me want to throw it. It wasn't good quality. It died quickly. The Wi-Fi was horrendous. And like for most people who are homeless or nomadic, like they're discriminated against because there's signs that say you must purchase something. That's a sign of discrimination, guys. Because they don't have the money, so it's like, no, you can't be here. But they're kicked out of their shelters during the day, so they have to find somewhere. And some of these people are disabled. They need to sit. They're old or like sick or whatever it be, and we're just like not helping them, even though we think we're helping. We need quality, not quantity. Like, really.
And the chicken and egg situation where it's like, okay, like if you want to get hired with us, like what you're supposed to have like experience before, but it's like, okay, but like where do I get my first experience? It's like, oh, that's your problem. It's like, no. Excuse me. You can't put people in that situation. You had 4 years of high school and all this college to make sure that that doesn't happen to people. And you're telling me you can't do that? That's not on us. That's on this idiotic system that we should be changing like this.
You guys should have Ariel close on any point. I love it.
Yeah, he's good at that.
Yeah. No,
Ariel is very animated. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say I think that's very important. Of realizing that there is and talking about the common understanding that essential items and services shouldn't be taken advantage of, and how do we go about addressing that? What does that look like so that the people aren't taken advantage of in those areas? Like we have that happening in the most essential, which is like housing during this time. Like it doesn't make sense to evict people, like during this quarantine it doesn't. And so just kind of those things. It's like, how do we ensure that our people are really being taken care of and we're not just doing lip service, then what does that look like? Like, let's talk about these other issues that we haven't talked about. And I think it's really having that roundtable type of discussion like we're having right now, in that. So yeah, that's those are really great points. You guys are, I like how the different views that you represent. Not views, but different aspects of what we should be considering right now.
And as like former Trump, like former Bernie, like all coming together. And we're just saying, like, you know what? Like, no matter you're conservative, Republican, what have you, some things are just not making sense, and let's kind of look into that.
Yeah, and I think you know, that was the note that I forgot in the beginning. And thanks for saying that, Ariel. In regards to like my parents, they're hard. They're hard. I'm only smiling because I'll share the episode that I'm thinking about that makes me smile, but they're hardcore Republican. And the only reason I'm smiling is like when President Trump was elected, that night, my mom, she's in this group message with us and she always texts and stuff. And she's like, praise God, Jesus loves us, the world is being saved, hallelujah. And then meanwhile, I'm like, what the fuck, motherfucker? I mean, I don't know what your guys' views are. If I've offended you, this is just my
No,
views.
no, no. Yeah, we're
No,
very, very
no,
happy.
no one
But it's
offended
like,
here.
Give it your
I'm
best.
like, holy fuck, what the fuck is gonna happen? Like, what are we gonna do? And then I was like going down the rabbit hole of like what countries to move to, and like, that was that time. Like, we already forgot about it, but that was that time, and that was that crisis for us,
I
and we're
remember
still
that.
kind of living it. Yeah, and we're still living in it. But I think for me, I was just so tempted to like send back a photo of Melania just all naked and like send it back to my mom, and then my mom would go crazy because there are certain things that the media does not disclose to certain communities for the purpose of it. The whole Korean community has no idea that that's the case, and like, but in any case, it's just I think there's seeing that all of us are different though. It's not to say that when I talk about like there are two things my parents and I don't talk about. And this is because I came out to them recently and we didn't talk for 20 months and we started talking as of again um, last fall, right before I started this campaign, because I didn't want them hearing from other people, oh, your son's running for office. Like, imagine the heartbreak there. So I didn't want that. So then I reached out and said, hey, let's continue our channels, even though it was very toxic when I came out to you. Let's talk about like two things we won't just put on the table for now. If we see that it'll be a safe zone, then we can. Let's take off sexuality, let's take off religion, and then we're good. And so we talk about everything else. And so like it's not to say that I can't have a conversation about politics or government or policies with my conservative Republican parents. Like they know that I'm really progressive. It's not to say that I can't have that with a libertarian friend or a Green Party friend, but I think it's the way about how we articulate it first of all and how we present it and what energy and intention we're coming from, because if it's more of a my idea and no other ideas, then yeah, we're going to fall short. So I think it comes from a deeper intention of where is my personal intention and agenda in this, like checking ourselves as well and kind of checking ourselves of okay, well, what values are things that can really be connected on, and that's where we can start. And the reason why I say that is I think it, and I was telling somebody else this, it's like I have different people ask me about how to address homelessness and prevent our unhoused brothers and sisters from continuing to live in that. And like I have ultra progressive, like libertarian, ultra conservative, just moderate centrist asking me. And now I find myself, it's not to say that I'm like changing stances or anything, but I think it's a choice of words and what the intentions and purposes of these policies and campaigns are, and connecting that first, and then finding what ways will work with you and me to get there, and kind of doing that instead of this is this point and we have to get to this point together to get here. But no, I think it's like, hey, do you see that right there? You see that with me? Then how do we get there? And I think it's that kind of process that needs to be adjusted and changed in a way. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's kind of got to come from a place of understanding that everybody wants what's best for the nation. You
Yeah.
can't treat it like your ideas are the educated ideas and everyone else is a bunch of uneducated plebes who are trying to cause harm. They're not.
Right.
They're trying to build their best lives for themselves and their communities.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why the whole passion and gusto and like fervor that people sometimes that might take them overboard to being hostile in words sometimes to each other, that all comes from this conviction of what they're saying is true for what they really believe could help their communities, and you can't judge that. Like that's their belief system, but how else do we connect and how else do we work together in that then? And I think it's
That's
coming
why
to that deeper understanding. So
Yeah, that's why Yang got so many people who were on the Trump side, because he said, "Look, I get it. Like your jobs are going away, and now you're left kind of penniless because of this. And like racism is bad, and all this other stuff is bad. But your main concern right now is like my job got automated. Where's my money coming from? And I get that. So the people who were former Trump were like, oh, okay, like he got that, and we can kind of go with this, and it, but like hardly any other Democrat got that. That was like crazy to me.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you also have to look at the ages of most of the other Democrats. There was barely anyone on that stage that was under 50. And the few that were the ones that seemed most open to either repeating Yang's ideas or borrowing elements of them.
Right.
Angela, you're so articulate. I love that.
Thank you.
David, I would like to ask you a question real quick.
Yeah.
So when I was hanging out with the Yang Gang in Iowa, I was talking to someone who's also Asian, and they were mentioning how like being in politics as an Asian was actually kind of shamed. Is this something you experience or understand, or is this like news? Like, is this, I don't know, but culturally for Asians in politics?
I don't know if it's shamed. I don't think it's like purposely like shameful or anything like that. But I think it's more of like this kind of they look at you with eyes of like, oh, you're like a hopeless romantic, David. You want to make change, but it's not gonna happen. Oh, he's immature, or she's immature. Like, oh, like it's that type of profession that people look at. I think. But then for my parents, I think because they're like they were pastors in their own belief systems, like they encouraged me to do whatever I wanted in that sense. And so, but then I do remember times where when I would go out from under my parents' wings and I would like be talking with an uncle, like my my dad's sister's husband or my dad's brother or whoever, or with other people, they would always say in the first conversation, like when you're asking a kid or a teenager, an adult's first question is usually, or I guess when I was growing up, the question was usually, what do you want to be when you grow up? And like I would always say like, I want to go help people. And they're like, they like laugh and they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, I don't know. I want to help people. And then they would just, and like kind of, I think it's that. It's not a shameful thing, but it's more like a, oh, they're not growing up. They actually need to make money. This kid doesn't realize that the whole purpose of having a job is to make money, to make lots of money, to have a house, to have your kids go to private school, to do all of that, or whatever it might be. But I think that's probably might be the mentality, or it could be some other mentality. But I think it's more the mentality of politics for them doesn't, they haven't seen, and now I'm generalizing and speaking for them. So I'm
Oh,
not, but one segment of the community could be politics hasn't done much for us. So like, why be involved in it? Or we're not that marginalized, or as long as we stay quiet, it'll be okay. Or, I mean, there could be different views to that, but I think the general consensus is there is some sort of degree of, yeah, you're a hopeless romantic aspect in that with politics. Because I mean, but then given the plus side of it, I do have people that are very supportive of it.
Oh.
Well, so like for instance, like entertainment clients or people that I know in the Asian American community, I have a small minority coming out strongly saying, David, I support you, let me know how I can help. But a vast majority of the Asian American community entertainment clientele that I know, they're just like, oh, okay, David's doing his thing. Like they're very disinterested. And I'm
Oh
I'm
my
and I'm
God.
like I'm not being like all bitter and sour about it, but I'm just being real face that you brought it up. Like the Asian American entertainment community like is super silent. Like I don't know how silent they are right now. Like I am running in Los Angeles the fucking entertainment capital of the world. I am part of their community. I was helping the Asian American legal community. Like I was giving free legal, like it's just, but then when it comes to politics, it's more, oh, good job, David, good luck. And I love that.
Oh yeah,
That gives us
Yeah.
emotional outbursts of support. But there are times where that only goes to a certain extent, where your words don't really match your action or energy in that sense. And so I do feel like that is something we can work on, and for the Asian American community in general. Like I honestly have to admit that. But
David,
there have been huge improvements.
yeah.
All right, go
David,
ahead.
I can actually offer some perspective on that.
I just want to say really quick, it's the same thing with Persians. Like my family came here from Iran, and it's always like political hobbyism, like, oh, I think like this Republican or this Democrat, but it's not getting involved. It's just having an opinion, never getting involved, and just going to just talking about business and then how it relates with business. And it's like this hobbyist thing. It's like saying, oh, I support this guy and this, but it's never like directly getting involved with like my Persian community too. So I just want to put that out there.
Yeah. As a Chinese and Japanese American, I can actually speak a little bit on this subject. Part of the reason why it's sort of soft support rather than full-on hard support is there's actually a fear of drawing negative attention to the community or making it, putting the community at risk of more scrutiny. And that's what they're afraid of is, the community gets more scrutinized and thrown into a political sort of box, and then that starts to close doors for them. That's what a lot of the fear is, at least on the ground level.
Right.
I mean, I think I'm gonna get so much. I could get fired for this, but I'm speaking for certain portions of the Korean community. I'm not talking about the Asian community, but certain portions of the Korean community, having grown up in that, there's this certain era of putting on a face and saving face, and always trying to be judged properly and positively in all aspects and in all ways. So as Angela was sharing that, I just thought, oh, is that connection right there that's happening on a more collective kind of conscious like society scale that happens with us personally in communities? Because my parents and this is I'm not dogging on my peoples or anything, but you do see a lot of people or households. I'm not pointing out districts or communities, but you see a lot of families where they live in smaller apartments, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom apartments, but then they have to drive around Mercedes and Benzes and Teslas, and it's like you can't afford that. Like you live in a 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom apartment. Like I mean, if you want to live that, that's for you. But it's like when you see that on a more massive scale, it's like that's I think so. And anyhow, what long story short is I got the connection there, Angela. I think I got that connection. So it makes sense.
Yeah, and interesting thing, David, there's
concept of
actually a
face, it's a
Japanese
thing that
word
is
for it.
going on like all over the world. It is as described. Whether or not we refer to it that way, it is, I think, a worldwide problem at this moment in time. Sorry, go on, Angela.
Okay, I was just going to tell David what you just described. There's actually a Japanese word for it, and it's a cultural thing. It's called tatemai, which is your public face. You have tatemai and you have hone, which is your public face versus what you really feel and express.
Okay. So I think that's probably also an element then, because I mean, I'm not saying that people don't show up, because they do show up, and they'll show up when, like, let's say I mean, when Andrew keeps on doing good stuff, or when I do some sort of milestone that's achievable, then they'll come out and show support because they'll be comfortable to go ahead and show support. And so I get that as well, but I think that's just something to just be aware of, and just to see how we can still activate people, and to kind of draw the bigger picture for people, that it's really about each of us putting a voice, because that's actually how we help each other. So
yeah, it's
absolutely.
like Andrew said, like my parents would always tell other people that I was still a lawyer. Like, why was that? Like the public face, right? It's
yeah.
like yeah, sometimes my mother does that too. She's like, if they ask me about you, what should I tell them that you're doing that's cool, that's like awesome? And I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, I remember being
Tell them I'm doing nothing.
Yeah,
doing
no,
this.
I remember being
Yeah.
for Stanford, I remember being deferred, and then rejected. And then my parents went around telling people that I was waitlisted, and I was like, no, I wasn't waitlisted. And I was like, what the heck? And so I get it, like, and so kind of like this whole like we don't want to be under scrutiny or attacked for any other reason that's unrelated to us. So they kind of do want to keep on the low radar. I get that for some
Yeah,
people.
yeah, yeah.
overall.
But the thing is like people care about their other people's perception of them more than they care about their own happiness. Like
Yeah.
people who may be miserable and thing when they go out in public, they want to be like, but people should think that I'm not this, so I'm gonna put on this. You know, I
To
don't
what
know.
end? To what end do we do
Right,
this? I do not
Yeah.
understand.
Well,
Yeah.
the
right.
thing is, it's perception because you want to be, and people in the business world are guilty of doing this too. You always want to be perceived as more successful than you are because that's how you open doors. For example, and Andrew Yang even talked about this on the campaign trail. Said, you know, as an entrepreneur, when people ask you how's the business doing, you have to say, oh, it's doing great. You know, when realistically on the back end it's crumbling and you're basically just trying to keep it from sinking.
Yeah.
So, okay, you know what you made me think of?
That was a good example. Yeah, go ahead, babe.
Okay, so I've been doing a lot of like enlightenment work in my life, and one of the things is we're not in alignment with truth, right? So we never look at the facts and how we feel about the facts of the truth, and then we never do anything with how we feel about the facts of the truth, right? And so we don't actually, if someone is crying, right? And you see them crying, you have given a signal to the world that I need help, right? And so someone can take corrective action with actual, like, oh, this is the reality of it. I will be here for you and I can, help you out. But if you pretend that you're not sad and you're putting on a happy face, nobody's going to come to help you, right? So if you're not authentic to the truth, then the problem becomes you're not getting the right help because you're sending the wrong signals, right?
Yeah.
Saving face doesn't help anybody.
Yeah.
Like an
Yeah,
invitation to
it's
mental illness too, to
right.
compartmentalize your
But I
psyche
think
like
like
that, your
in
emotions.
this like super competitive kind of like society that we built that like you always see the next guru go out there and say like I built a successful business, and then he has like a crowd of people going like, yeah, I'll make lots of money, and like we've just proliferated that so much that it's become like a cult, like a brainwave. It's crazy.
That's true. That's so true too. That's so true too. No, because there's this whole kind of movement towards getting yourself better, but then in that it's like you're it's ironically the opposite as well. But yes, I
Right.
get that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I would say one of the interesting things, borrowing another quote from Andrew Yang, is we need a society where we decouple human value from financial value. You know, where everyone is judged by the type of job that you do. And I noticed this
Yes.
in a Yang Hang that I hosted recently, where we were talking, and I accidentally dropped out for a second. And when I came back, everyone who didn't have the moderator in the room for a moment were like, oh, okay, what did we talk about? Well, what do you do for a living? And that was like the first default question that they went to. So that shows our society has such a strong connection to what is your profession? What, that kind of is how we measure each other, is what is your profession? What do you do, rather than, what interests do you have? What hobbies do you have? So the question seemed almost like pre-programmed in us. It's just the first thing you ask if you are in an awkward situation. It's like, oh, what do you do for a living?
I
What
have
do you do for a living? Please reply response.
I actually had a conversation with somebody really related to this. So this particular person has a lot of mental health issues, right? Like a significant amount that it paralyzes them to some capacity. And they were saying how they like parts of themselves, but not their whole selves. And I was like, what would help you love your whole self? And their answer surprised me. They're like, universal basic income. I was like, wait, what? Like, okay, let's pause. Why? Let's like, what's going on? And they're like, well, I really hate that conversation of what I do for money, and because it's hard for them to even like face their anxiety to do anything, and like the conversation is uncomfortable, and it's actually shameful if you don't make money, right? And so like if you are not making money, you're lesser in the eyes of others, right? You could be doing fantastic work, and you could be making massive change in society, but if you're not getting paid for that, oh, shame on you.
Yeah.
To a party and flood expectations by just confidently, when people ask you, "What do you do?" say nothing. Oh, nothing at all. Just stand there and smile and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, that's you guys are so good. Hold on, can somebody just send me the last 5 minutes of this recording too? Or will I be able to record? I'll
Yes,
talk to
yes,
Angelo
this
about
will
it.
be
Okay.
available.
Oh
Oh
yeah,
my,
I'll get the recording from Shale.
Okay.
Sure,
No, because
for sure.
that's what you just said. You nailed it right there, Faye, where it's like, what the like that would be a perfect clip for people because every single person in this entire world can relate to that. Like that's not something like that's relatable by just a fraction of people out there. That's relatable to every single person.
it blew
And I feel like a lot of people don't realize that we've been pre-programmed to automatically categorize and put into bins and cubby holes a person after we find out immediately what their profession is. And then if we find out what their series of professions are, then we put them in more bins and categories within our heads and our whatever information that we store here subconsciously. And that's something that would definitely limits our ability to fully interact and engage with people because we've already set energy limits from with which to interact without ourselves
Hey,
knowing at all.
I
Like,
mean, if calling out bullshit was a profession, like that's mine, and I'm happy to have it. Eventually, I'll make
Hey,
money.
David, that actually, I have a brilliant idea that I'm going to share later. But I was going to, when you were talking about that, that almost reminded me of the military and how many ribbons and awards you have on your uniform. And it's kind of the same thing. Just insert profession here, extra label here. I belong to, just to name a few things. It's like, okay, so I do something like I'm a doctor. I'm also, a member of, name community here. I'm also a ad label here. I also have gone to ad school here. And I also study ad this here. So it's basically like a list of accomplishments that you're wearing on your chest, similar to, the medals that a service member would wear. And
yeah,
basically, it's just like you're judged by how many of those ribbons you have on you. It's sort of the same way that you're judged by how many labels you can add onto your name.
pretty
uh,
much.
when I deal with people and they tell me their occupation, I don't even care what they say. I ignore it. I don't care. You could be the garbage man, you could be a CEO. The next question I ask, which is the one that actually matters to me, are you happy? Do you enjoy your job? Like, that's more
Do you
important.
enjoy your life? Right.
And are you willing to change that if you're not happy? And most people are like, well, I'm doing what I got to do to survive. And I'm like, you're killing your soul.
Well, that's
Yeah.
that's pretty boring. I mean, like I don't see that. Like yeah, it's just so like that. That's like I love creativity and imagination, and like these responses are like the most uncreative, unimaginative, just like dry and like things. It's like okay, it's a big deal. Like let's create something. Let's make something. Let's like explore the options. Let's like explore the earth. Like I don't know. I just like making things up, creating things, and that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, getting paid to do something. Like, I mean, a lot of people are like, "Oh, you're gonna be like encouraging laziness." It's like, what? Where are you getting that from? Oh my gosh, you don't know what it's like to not have $1,000.
The
Wow.
opposite
Like,
is true because it's like okay, we'll give you this money, and if you work, we'll take it away from you. Okay, then I don't want to work. Okay, we'll give you this money no matter what, and if you work, you make more. Okay, I'm gonna work. Hello.
To
yeah,
quote one of my favorite entrepreneurs, Dan Locke, he said, being broke is more expensive than having money.
Yeah, it is.
yeah,
Okay. So you saying that, okay, so I'm purposely trying to see how little I can how well I can get away some money. So I've been trading and bartering and time sharing, you know, and I'll pick up random gigs once in a while. But like to get away from like, the need of money is nearly impossible. But when I have to buy stuff, oh yeah, it gets more. And then like if you got predatory cops or whatever, they're giving you a fine for something because whatever. You know, I've been more harassed by police being nomadic than I'm a white woman. I'm half native, but I pass as white, right? And so like I get treated with some forgiveness comparatively to other nomads because I also keep clean. I blend in, right? But like for other people, they're targeted more simply because this person. Once you have a criminal record, you're instantly targeted more, even if it was for protesting on the state's capital for something that really matters. But you got to check that box when you're even signing up for work, right? That there's an issue with this, but you were targeted because you already got the thing. I met one guy, and he had a clean record when I met him. He got put in jail once. He's Hispanic, and next thing I know, he had been in and out of jail consistently after that because he was more targeted after that. I'm like, what? And he didn't make any money anyway.
Yeah. This? Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, you're so right about that. I think we don't realize, I think, yeah, people that don't have money, like when you put it relatively speaking, their lives are more costly and expensive right now than those who do have money. And there's everything wrong with that. Um, not to end on a down note, but and that's what I think, realizing that we can all change. And like I'm so glad that you guys are like talking and having these discussions and conversations again.
I'm so glad that you're entering the government. So.
Yeah. And I told my boyfriend, I was like, babe, this is my max. If I am not out here, you pull me out, okay? Because I'm never going over the 10-year. I said 10 years is the max. I'm never going over that. I'm gonna get in and then get out. And then he was like, what are you gonna do after? I was like, I don't know. We'll think about that after. But
retire an island.
no. But I mean, we'll probably do something. It'll probably be something arts related because I'm always about the creativity part and expression of it. But for me, it was just like, for more of that to flourish and for more of that for us to enjoy, certain measures have to take place, like where we can actually allow our artists and creatives to go ahead and create. And so from the way I see it, like I'm helping out this girl. Her name is Elanese, Elanese. She's freaking amazing. Her voice is like the next Whitney Houston. Like, she's a legend. She was born into this world for this. Like, I know, but then what sucks is that she might not be able to get that chance because of finances. And it's like, her parents live on the other east side coast. Like, she's Ubering every day. Like, it's hard to meet people and do that stuff when you're Ubering the entire day, and like, and that doesn't even allow you to pay the bills fully. And it's just like, oh my gosh, what are we doing, guys? Like, we're not there yet. And like, and so for me to actually do my part in being somebody that's so invested into entertainment and music, what I saw was, no matter how hard I try to help these people, I'm working against a massive system of inequality right now. And there's not much that I can be doing right now with these creatives that I'm helping. And like, I want to help you out more. I wish I was a billionaire. I wish I could dole out money to you, but I can't. And so it's like, oh my gosh, we need to fix this. We need to fix this. And then that's where I found Kenneth's campaign. And that's where I was like, oh my gosh, let me just take a break. I'll just take a break from the music industry, the creative industry, go run for office, go make some changes. And then once you creatives are able to live, I'll come back and then be in the creative industry again. And so maybe that's my track, who knows? But I mean, it feels good as I'm saying it right now. But that's my, I don't plan to be like in government for a long time or anything. I think it's just in and out. Like, we need to get certain policies and measures in place. Like,
and then that speaks to your mentality of leadership as service. It's not a glamorous thing. It's not a fun thing. It's a rewarding thing, but it's hard work, and it is service to everyone who you represent. And the fact that you only want to do it for 10 years speaks very well of you, in my opinion. Because it's hard. If you're going to do the job, it's hard. And
can we all say yes, we can?
Yes, we can.
Yes,
Yes.
Kim.
We
Kim.
Kim, David Kim, thank you so
Of
much
course
for
we
coming
can.
on. We are not ending on a down note. This is a very positive note. I feel very
Yeah,
happy to have met you.
yeah.
And I want to remind you that we are at your service. If we can create content for you that will help your campaign or help our shared cause, let us know. Pitch me an episode,
Okay.
talk to the other speakers, anything we can do for you. And please come back
Meanwhile,
anytime.
could we get a clip of what Faye shared in regards
Yeah,
to when people ask
definitely,
about their job?
definitely,
I
definitely.
would love that for a UBI related thing just to put out on our social
I
media.
promise you.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
Yeah, I'll get it from Phil. Don't worry.
All
We should
right.
do the
Well, if you
thing
just
where
want to
we
say
talk
goodbye
about.
really quick. Oh,
Wait, shouldn't we
what do you want
say
to do?
what our user handles are? We didn't do that in the beginning.
Yeah, I was about to suggest that, Faye.
Okay,
Why don't you go ahead?
What's happening?
We are
sorry.
going to say our
Oh,
names and our Twitter handles so listeners can follow us and viewers can follow us.
Let's start with Ariel, and we'll
It's
just
an
work.
end of the program ritual. So let's go ahead and start with
okay.
Ariel.
Okay. My name is Ariel, and my Twitter handle is at Ariel's underscore Armada. So that's ARIELS_ARMADA. And you can follow me on YouTube as Revolutionary Thinking.
Great. Let's do you, David Kim, please.
Awesome. My name is David Kim. My Twitter handle is DavidKim2020.
Thank you.
My name is Faye Doney, and my Twitter handle is at TizDoney. So TISDONEY. I also have a new one. It's for my unicorn puppet. It's at Marshmallow the U.
Nice. I love it. I love it. I have to follow that. I'm Shale Riley. My Twitter is at SHAELRILEY. Thank you for joining us. And we have Angelo still with his camera
My name
off.
is Angelo Mendoza. You can find me on Twitter at Hallie and Hellfire.
Thank you, Angelo. Elizabeth.
Elizabeth at Unicorn36902 on Twitter and at The Wandering Unicorn on YouTube.
And finally, Jeremy.
Hi everyone, you haven't heard
Jeremy.
me at all of this this podcast, but yeah, I'm the guy who runs the stream and on our Twitch channel.
As our assistant producer, thank you.
Yes. So yeah, please tune into our Twitch stream at twitch.tv/Yang Roundtable, and you can follow me on Twitter at Jeremy Sammons1, and that's SAMMONS and the number 1.
That's fantastic. All right. I love you guys. Thank you everybody for speaking and listening and watching us. Take care, and we will be with you again soon. Stay safe out there. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, great.